What's up, y'all? 10 at 3 time at Tennessee. How are you? I hope you're doing well. Hope everything in your life is going well here on this Monday, February the 2nd, 2026. I hope everyone's been safe out there in the weather. Everyone in the eastern United States, more or less. There's been a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, we had, 5, 6 inches, whatever it was here of snow. I think there's still a few inches in my yard in the way I was heading over here today. Anyway, after a busy weekend, and I hope before we talk sports for the rest of this, I hope y'all are safe. I hope everything, you're only driving when you need to, make sure the roads are clear, do all of those things. But it was a busy weekend, and when the roads were a lot better than they are right now anyways, Tennessee had basically a full house in the house on Saturday for a big win over Auburn. We're going to talk about that. Lady Vols, a little bit more hot dog water there in the second half. I actually think hot dog water might be a complimentary way to describe what that second half was up there in Yukon. And speaking of Connecticut, I got in here with me today someone from, which state is it, Elijah? Which state is it that you're from?
Connecticut. That's how I learned how to spell Connecticut.
That's
when
how I
was a
learned
kid.
too, actually.
Yeah,
Connect, I cut. That's right. And I'm not going to call them your Yukon Huskies, but certainly from the state of which you are from, they took care of the Lady Vols. Game was tied at the half and looked okay, kind of settling in on a snowy Sunday here. Let's buckle up, see what's going on for the second half. And it was not. We ended up by the end of it, we were back to watching Pixar movies at Fort Rucker and playing in the snow again. It was not watchable down the stretch. It was pretty rough.
It was tough. I think UConn was up 21-5 at one point, and I was like, oh, here we go. It's gonna be a little bad. It's going to be bad. But then they fought back, and then I think that they took the lead. The Lady Vols took the lead in the second quarter for the first time that UConn ever trailed in the second quarter all year during that time. So then, they tied the game 42-42 going into the break. And back in my mind, I thought that was a bad thing because the Lady Vols are gaining so much momentum that I was like, well, a break is going to probably not be the best thing for them at that point. When you have a great coach like Gino, and Kim is a great coach as well, but when you have a good coach like Gino, you can rally your troops together, make those adjustments, and then go back to what you're doing in the third quarter, and that's exactly what they did. And it's only funny because my dad called me throughout the whole thing. He said he fell asleep when they went up 21-5, and he said he woke up at halftime like, what's going on? And then he said he called me back after the game, was like, yeah, we only won because I watched the rest of the game. I was like, okay.
Yeah,
right.
If you're thinking there really, 21-5 when he goes to sleep, he wakes up, it's tied. He stays awake. Doesn't go so well down the stretch. Apparently, if he had just kept on napping, Elijah, it may have been a different story. But it's as we say this all the time on this program, there are levels to this thing, and Kim's done a really nice job at Tennessee, and I think she'll continue to do a good job. But there have been a couple instances in the past week that just kind of remind you, hey, not quite there yet. They've recruited well. They've got ability. They've got some young talent, which also is nice on top of that. But they're entering just a really brutal stretch of the schedule now. And, maybe it'll make them closer to what they need to be by the end of the year because there's a level where you reach this thing. And, every time you want to say, hey, the Lady Vols are right back there on that cusp, they just kind of remind you not quite yet. There's just, they just got to play these runs they're giving up.
Yeah.
And I know the way they play. Listen, every style has its own thing, right? If you are one of those teams who backs it down, kind of slows it, keeps it in front of you defensively, tries to slow down games, you may not be able to come back from a big deficit, but you can usually kind of keep games close. But then there's the way that you go up and down, you try to make the opponent uncomfortable. You're really fast, you're really hectic, and that can give you a chance to always get back in the game. But it can also mean that when things go badly, they go very, very badly. And I think they've got the bones in place there to be a pretty good team. They just haven't quite found a way to consistently be up there. And I don't know if that's, a couple different personnel down the road, if that's getting more out of what you have now, if it's a combination, if it's something with the players they got to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
But they've got the pieces there to be a good team. Now, can they be up there with the UConn's and South Carolina's. I think that might be a bit too much to ask right now. Maybe not, but it just seems that way. But I think they have the pieces there to at least do a little more.
Yeah. And I mean, and to say this too, I just felt like, yesterday they had a really good game plan. I think Mia Paldo did not look like a freshman up to that point. And yesterday they just blitzed her, disrupted her rhythm and timing and things of that nature. It was one pass where they were on a fast break where Mia will actually find a corner quicker, find somebody in the corner or find somebody cutting quicker. They played right in, UConn played right into it. It was like, okay, she's going to come here, right here, stole the ball, and then they went down and scored, Mia coming down on the fast break. So I'm just like, yeah, it just didn't look good offensively for them. Defensively, I think Tennessee actually held their own for, some of the parts of the games.
Yeah,
I think they held their own. They were getting turnovers. They just wasn't hitting shots. They'll get to this mode where they were doing one pass, one dribble, jump shot. And I think that's what started to kill them a little bit in that in the third quarter, because in the second quarter, as you can see, they was doing backdoor cuts. They was doing a lot of things, moving without the basketball. I was like, hold on, Lady Vols, this is that type of basketball I like to see. And then third quarter, they just were flat-footed, and UConn do UConn things. They're going to take advantage of every mistake. Every mistake you give them, they're going to take advantage of it. And if it may come down in a turnover, 2 points, 3 points, an and one, or maybe a 4-point play. But UConn is going to take every mistake and use it to their advantage that you give them.
Yeah, and in fairness, it's not Gino's first or second or third or fourth rodeo, and we say all the time in sports, right? You've got there's guys and there's dudes, right? And I know it's women's sports, but it's more of just an expression that everybody's got some guys, but not everybody has some dudes, and I think Tennessee's got a couple of those dudes. I think UConn's got more of them, and it's hey, if the game had been played in Knoxville. Hey, you never know. What happened last year happened. So I don't know if Tennessee's ever going to be a team that you're comfortable to play the Lady Vols. I think they're just the way they play makes you uncomfortable. It's kind of like A&M in basketball, the men's side. They just the way they play makes you uncomfortable, and it means you're going to make mistakes. But also, if you can take care of the ball, you can score, and you're going to get a lot of possessions to score. And if you get hot, you can get really hot and burn them. So. It's a tough day, but a tough day to cap off what was otherwise a pretty good weekend, I think, for Tennessee, because the men on Saturday outlasted Auburn 77 to 69 in a game that we're going to talk about, obviously, for a bulk of the rest of this show. And I've covered enough Tennessee-Auburn basketball games in the past decade to know that going into each and every one of them, it is a battle. It's two different styles of basketball, but both of them are relentless. Both teams are relentless. Neither team quits. Neither team stops pushing you, stops fighting, stops doing everything it can do, right? They'll prison shank you for a millimeter, right? They're tough. And in a lot of ways, they're pretty smart too, the way that, some would call it flopping for Auburn, but hey, they take advantage of that rule. You have to leave a shooter room to land, and if you don't, they can fall and they can get the call, and it is what it is. That's why you foul 3 3-point shooters in a game. But it's that whole transition of Bruce Pearl to Stephen Pearl at Auburn, right? Former, as y'all know, obviously, former Tennessee player Stephen Pearl played for his dad, Bruce, at Tennessee. And, there's no nice way to say it other than Stephen Pearl got to jump a lot of ladders to get where he is. And that doesn't mean he can't do it. That doesn't mean he won't do it. I actually thought he coached a pretty good basketball game on Saturday night. But you have to kind of try to separate the two things in that, yes, he got to jump a whole lot of ladders in the coaching industry for his first head coaching job to be at Auburn at his age. Yes, that is unusual, and it would not happen if his last name were not Pearl. And I know we live in a world where Nepo babies are getting called out, and fair enough, right? Fair enough. But he has done a pretty nice job with that team with some of the wins they have, and they were relentless on Saturday. They did not quit. They made Tennessee fight, scratch, claw, bite for 2 hours to come back and overtake them and hold them off down the stretch. They were They were in for a fight. Every Tennessee-Auburn game I've seen, Elijah, for like a decade now, no matter who wins, it's almost always close. There was that one SEC tournament game in Nashville where Tennessee was a little tired and Auburn just wiped the floor with them.
Yeah.
But they always play these kind of games that are just you're biting your nails for 2 hours. What you were there sitting with me at the game. What were your impressions of it? Because it just looked like, I mean, it was just a fight for 2 hours.
It was, to me, it was impressive the way how everything played out with Jacoby Gillespie being in foul trouble. Like you said, it was a fight. And it was a fight that Tennessee brought their two biggest men down there with Jalen Carey and Dwayne Brown. Those were like their two biggest, their frontline soldiers, if you want to say.
Yeah, they're DNs.
Yeah, they're DNs. And then, you know what? Before I even continue that, Jalen Carey is really today. I mean, I seen it in the prior, but if you look at it, I looked at him today, and I'm like, you really could be a football player.
His dad was an NFL lineman, offensive tackle, I believe. So yeah, I mean, he's got the. I mean, you look at it and you're like, dude, are you sure you're playing the right sport? You're good at basketball, but hey.
If you would have, not disrespect the track and field, but if I see him doing the shot put, I'm like, come on, man, get out of there.
Yeah.
Let's get out of here. Let's get you somewhere else, man.
Yeah, and it's like one of those things where, like, you ever seen, like, a beer can in Andre the Giant's hand, or whatever, where it looks like he's got, like, one of those, like, 4-ounce cans, but it's a 12-ounce can. Yeah. Yeah, he would make that. He would make that shot put look like a baseball or something, you know? And the way that they go, I mean, just he's a guy that we'll talk about him later, because if he would just play all the time the way he's capable of playing, that's an all-conference player. I mean, he just is so much more physically powerful than most of the other big men at this level. Sometimes the length bothers him, but if he can get chest to chest and push you off your spot, you better be held down like an anchor or you're going to go flying.
And I agree with you with him and Dwayne. Those two guys, we can talk more about them and about their play later. But what I really liked about it is the team rallied. The team rallied around when I think that their best offensive player, Jacoby Gillespie, he's sitting out. And you have Bishop Boswell, who's not known for a scorer. I mean, he barely averaged around 7 points per game. Nate Ahmet still trying to find himself. Amari Evans isn't really much of the catalyst when it comes to scoring.
No, but a catalyst in every other way.
But yeah, in every other way. And then like you got, Jalen Carey, Dwayne Brown, JP. So it's like, where did your offense come from? And it came from their defense. It was causing turnovers. They was on the run. They're jumping. They're getting the rebounds. They're getting the extra points. And that's what I really liked about what I saw about the Tennessee team, because it showed you that they don't have to just slow things down and be a half-court offense. Sometimes all you got to do is just let your defense become the best part of your offense, and that's what they did in some parts of those nights. And what I really liked about what even the Auburn coach said it, he said they punked us. They did. I think they legit did, because at the end of the day, it wasn't like, we saw a superstar, we saw a Kobe Bryant performance or anything from somebody. What we really saw was that team was getting down, nitty-gritty, taking the ball away, boxing out, doing things that you don't see typically on the stat sheet to win that game. And I think that if Tennessee wants to go as far as they want to go into the NCAA tournament, the SEC tournament, they're going to have to win games like that, because as you can see, some games you have to pull out, like how they did with Houston last year when they lost that game. But that was a gritty game that you will have to win. Those are games that's going to show up in a tournament, because you're playing games every day. Not every day you're not going to get 80-point, 90-point points.
It's not sustainable.
You're not going to do it. So you got to show that you can win those tough games that's going to come down to probably free throw shootings, points off of turnovers, and how often can you get second chance rebounds, and they showed it against Auburn.
Yeah, and we have some video from Barnes I think I'm going to play here in the second segment, because we won't have time to get in here before we go to secret time. But I think that we talk a lot, and I think rightly so, when they've not made their free throws, and there have been a bunch of games where they've not done that, and it's turned some wins into losses. Let's just, we call things what they are here, and that's they lost a couple games because they didn't hit some free throws, and that's why they have 6 losses instead of 1 or 2. That and some other little things, turnovers especially. But in that game, they were 25 of 31 from the free throw line, and they were 16 of 18 in the second half, which is almost 90%. So they were all pressure free throws. That game was tight, like Georgia was the whole game, sitting on an edge the whole time, and Tennessee was not built that early lead, but then Auburn was like, hey, we're fighting back now. We're not going to take it. And they didn't take it. And they fought back hard and got a couple breaks with the call here or there, a couple fouls that maybe didn't have to be called, but were, and that's the game. And Auburn took advantage of those breaks, and it hit some threes, right? It made Tennessee uncomfortable. It forced some turnovers. But Tennessee had game pressure on the entire game, and it had game pressure without Felix Okpara in the game, who's one of the best rim protectors in college basketball, who absolutely changes the defense when he's not out there. Because he and Cade Phillips are 2++. I would call Phillips a plus rim protector and Okpara a plus rim protector. But without either one of them in there, that you're changing things. Like Rick Barnes said, right, they did a couple zone looks they hadn't even practiced all year. They did a box and one a couple times that they hadn't practiced once all year, because they were just trying to kind of buy some possessions and buy some time here and there because they were all in foul trouble, and they've got to stop doing that. I don't know why they think they have an unlimited number of fouls. There are things in a game that just I will never understand. And when guys pick up an absolutely stupid foul in the first 2 or 3 minutes of a game thinking, that's fine, I got a bunch of them left. No, you don't. It's not. Like, if you do that and then you do that one more time, you're probably out for the rest of the first half. And if you do that again early in the second half, guess what? You're going back to the bench. And they keep acting like they have an unlimited number of them. No, you play hard because Rick Barnes wants you to play hard. But you don't pick up dumb fouls. They keep getting lucky to kind of get away with this. At some point this season, it absolutely could end their season. They've got to stop doing that. But if you're going to criticize, as I just did, you got to say, hey, they found a way. They made it harder than it needed to be, and they did something that I don't remember the last time I saw it. We'll talk about that early in the second segment. Winning a basketball game in 2026 without making a three-pointer in the final 35 minutes of the game, which in this day and age is mind-boggling. I didn't know. Honestly, I did not think you could beat a decent to good or better basketball team by doing that. I didn't think it was possible. Apparently it is. And without Okpara, they found a way to have maybe their best SEC defensive performance of the season in some ways.
I agree.
And, I don't think that could be replicated all the time, but hey, that should give Okpara plenty of motivation when he gets back in there to be as effective as we all know he can be. Mm-hmm. So you marry those things together, and all of a sudden, hey, you found out you can score the ball without Gillespie in there on offense because he was in foul trouble, picking up some dumb fouls he shouldn't have. And you found out you can play some defense without Felix Okpara, who missed the entire game with an injury. So we got a lot more to talk about with that, but Tennessee found a way, and we're going to talk about that in the second segment. You got to go horses for courses sometimes and just figure out which horses you got, which courses you got, and how you got to run it.
Right.
And they found a way to do it, and that was impressive. And we're going to talk about that and hear from the Reverend Rick Barnes himself when we come back right here on 10 at 3. Secret time.
Secret time.
Yeah, I could not believe. I mean, I knew they hadn't had a lot of threes, but I didn't realize, one, they didn't hit a single one in the second half, and two, they didn't hit one in the final 15 minutes because they were so hot from three early. They were like 4 of 6 from three in the first, 4 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then 0 for 7 the rest of the game, but hardly ever even shot them.
Yeah.
And Ament's 4 of 16 from the floor, but he kept getting fouled, so he kept going to the line. And I had not realized. I mean, that honestly reminded me. You've seen Skyfall? Mm-hmm. At the end, when basically Bond's facing a modern paramilitary force, and he's just like at his old home there in Scotland, and he's only got like a couple of, like an old shotgun, a handgun, like some light bulbs that they can, turn into sharp objects, some old dynamite from the mines that they can use. It's like he went home alone on a modern paramilitary force. That's kind of what Tennessee did against Auburn.
But you know what, though? I don't see that was a problem. I just think that, how can I say this? Like I said, those nitty-gritty wins are what you're going to need. I think that the more 3 points they probably would have took, I think that they probably would have lost the game because they hit the first, 4, but when you start forcing them, That's when it become a problem. I feel like all those shots were open. It was the extra pass, extra kick, shot, stuff like that. But when you just start forcing them, just taking them just to take them, that's when I think like it's like I don't know. You could die on an overdose of threes.
You can, but to not shoot any is.
You can die on an overdose of threes.
That's why. How much more time we got? Secret time, Justin?
12 seconds.
Well, then I say it's about time we get back to business.
12 seconds.
Welcome back to 10 at 3. Wes Rucker and Elijah Nixon and Justin Wallace. Justin, last time you were doing the show, I think I asked you if you would go to YouTube and look up the old Detroit Pistons starting lineup intro when Ben Wallace would get introed. And the way that the PA said Ben Wallace's name should be how you're introduced on this podcast. I don't have that voice, so I can't do it.
I'm not sure that ever happened.
But
I don't
it's
think that was me in here when you said that.
Yeah, we need to. We're gonna have to YouTube that. Maybe we'll do that during the next secret time. See if I can find it. But we're talking Tennessee basketball here. We needed to talk about the Lady Vols UConn there to open the game. That is the most historically relevant rivalry in women's basketball. So glad they're playing it again. And the Lady Vols, they played half of it yesterday. they were game. They were up for the fight for about 20 minutes, and then they kind of got taken to the cleaners in the second half. We talked about that, and then we moved on to the men, who did beat Auburn 77-69 and found different ways to do it. And apologies, this video that we're going to play, it's a little bit longer than a lot of the ones we would normally play, but I think Rick Barnes' answers here were so good that I want us to hear them in their entirety. And I just think I just think the way that he explained this and how important it was, and the way we asked him a few times about playing defense without Okpara, playing offense without Gillespie, finding out they could do it, the relevance of that. So I thought we needed to play all, I think, 3 or so questions he was asked about this. So here from late Saturday night, maybe even early Sunday morning at that point, was Tennessee coach Rick Barnes discussing some important things after that win over Auburn.
Much Carey and Brown, it's like a couple of SEC defensive ends out there. Obviously, they got a lot of minutes together. What did they give you tonight?
Well, I can tell you what I just told Mike Keith. He said, would you thought you wouldn't make a three? I think he said in the last 35 minutes. And I told him, I said, Mike, you forget how old I am. I said, I still believe in the single wing. And, I played when there was we played everything 15 feet and in, so I'm good with that, But those guys played big for us, obviously, but our guards, I think we had 3 perimeter guys with 8 rebounds. Jalen had 8. But we needed all of them. We really did. I mean, Auburn's a really good team. Steven's done a great job with his team, and they've gotten better from the beginning, and they're a very efficient offensive team. He does a great job of getting his players in the position where they're really effective, and we've got to stop fouling. I mean, we just too many things, but our front line, that was something that we haven't had for a couple of years, and with Dwayne Brown's going to be a really good basketball player. He is now, and he's come quicker than we thought. We've talked about that, I think, in the past, but we need Jalen's consistency. That's what we need as much as anything, and JP staying out of foul trouble. But tonight, a lot of different guys, and it was truly a team win tonight because they kept pushing, and they weren't able to get it. I was there thinking, especially in the first 4 minutes, second half, people were asking about, I think we fouled 6 times in 4 minutes, and it was because they were playing harder. They came out at halftime, and it had nothing to do with officiating. I mean, we fouled because we were back on our heels. They were going right at us, and that's where we've got to mature as a team. But there was one time during the timeout, I said, hey, guys, we got 4 freshmen out here, and it's time you guys grow up. And they came out and did a pretty good job for us.
There was that 7-minute stretch in the second half where Jacoby had to sit with 4 fouls, and you guys maintained the lead with Nate and Bishop and especially Amari Evans. Just what did you see during that stretch with Jacoby?
It was good for us because, again, I think that, when Jacoby's out there, sometimes, he's got to stop fouling the situation he's in. But, we've in practice actually – I think a week ago, we wouldn't let him practice. We said, we're going to learn to play without him. And we had him because he was tired. And so we went 2 days where he didn't do hardly anything because we can play without him. And the ball moves a little bit more, and that's what we're trying to get him to understand, that he's got to get off of it some and let it get back to him. But I thought it was great for those guys, and I thought they were confident, and they should be because they've worked hard together, and they know they need each other, and I didn't think at any point in time when that stretch was going on that anybody really left anybody on an island by themselves, and they were out there really trying to help each other. The talking was really good with that group.
Kind of on that same thing, could y'all survived a 7-minute stretch without Jacoby 2 months ago?
That's a good question. Maybe not, but we're more prepared now than ever to do that. And, if it happens, it happens. Even Troy, Troy hasn't been able to practice or do much in the last week, and we have confidence in him. We thought Troy was really heading in the right direction. I still think he is. It's just that he hasn't had many reps because he did a little bit in practice yesterday, but we didn't do a lot in practice yesterday, and so he went in and he's not afraid of the moment, but we just got to get him worked back in there.
About the way that you thought these guys could play good offense without Jacoby in there and play good defense without Felix in there, but for the guys themselves to see that in a game like that, how much can that help when the players can actually see something that you tell them is going to happen?
Well, I do hope they see it and feel it. We've talked about it, but it's one thing to do it in practice, but it's another thing to have to do it when the bright lights are on, and they did it, and it's something that we can build on, and it's something I think Jacoby can build on. I think he's the one that needs to look at it as much as they did it because they stayed together, they were confident, but because he gets himself in trouble sometimes by trying to do too much, and but I think the more he can sit there and see some of the things. Jacoby's been put in a position he hasn't been all year. He's the number one target. He's absolutely one of the best guards in the country. Everybody knows what he can do, but he's got and I keep telling him he's got a great mid-range game that for whatever reason he won't get to it. He wants to keep going too far with it, and but I think the more he can sit and watch too, he like when he came back in, he was great defensively. And I think he saw it differently. So maybe it'll be good not only for our team, but for him as well.
That was Tennessee basketball coach Rick Barnes talking about the 77-69 win over Auburn and talking about the way that Tennessee had to find a way to win that game. Now, we say all the time, and I think it bears repeating, that what happens in basketball games, in football games and everything else, baseball games, all of it, coaches spend, depending on which staff it is, but regardless, a good amount of time, some a crazy amount of time, but most at least a good amount of time making a plan for the game. You look at your like you kind of self-scout, look at your own tendencies, look at the opponent. What do they like? What do they not like? What causes them trouble? When do they have it easy? Who can you attack? Where are the mismatch problems? And so you make an entire plan, right? And that's why these games, Tennessee's coaching staff does it like everybody else does, right? It's going into the season, that this coach has this game, this coach has that game. So, like right now, there's a coach on the staff, whoever has the Ole Miss game for Tuesday won't have the Saturday game against Kentucky. So they'll spend the whole week looking at the Kentucky stuff. So they probably spent the weekend looking at that stuff too. And so basically it'll be this coach for that. So that's how important it is that guys get kind of every other game or every 3 games, they kind of divvy it up. And you make a detailed scouting report, you make a plan, and then the ball tips off and it almost never goes the way you want it to go. Not exactly the way you want it to go, because the ball tips up in the air and it's chaos. It's 2 hours of or more at times of chaos. And, I was watching the F1 movie last night, and they go into every race kind of with plan A, plan B, plan C, right? And sometimes it's hard to get any of the plans because just things, you need a D, E, F. All these things happen. And so you'll have guys who are available, aren't available, guy gets hurt, foul trouble. In Tennessee's case, you don't make a plan saying what happens if there's like 4 guys with 4 fouls and our par can't even play in the game. What do you do? Well, let's try a zone defense that hasn't even been practiced. Let's try a box and one. Hey, you guys remember how to play a box and one? Let's go play one for a couple possessions. You know, hey, let's make sure that a shot, unless it's a wide open layup or dunk, let's run about 20 seconds of offense here to just burn a little bit of time to cool down a little bit and buy some more time. You know, you just have to manage it the way you have to do it. And they found a way in that game when they weren't making or really even taking threes the final 35 minutes. They had 4 guys, I think, with 4 fouls, or 3 guys with 4 fouls and another with 3 fouls, and these were all starters. Estrella was playing. He had some turnovers early that were a problem and fouled a 3-point shooter, which wasn't good, but he was still scoring and getting some rebounds. But he picks up 2 fouls like that, and he's off the floor. Boswell does it again. He's got to stop. Gillespie does it again. He's got to stop. You know, he picks up 2 and 3, 4 real quick. Boom, 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 real quick there in the second half. And things that you just can't do. But they rallied a way around that, right? They were playing 4 freshmen at a time for a while. Dwayne Brown stepped up and played. That's got to be a season high for him, 33 minutes. It has to be, I would think. Ament goes 36 minutes. Gillespie only 28. Say only 28 because that's about 10 less than usual for him. And, you know, Jalen Carey, 27 minutes off the bench. They got 2 minutes out of Abram and Henderson. They just cobbled it together and found a way. And it's good to have this many options because, as we've seen now, apparently you're going to need them for different reasons.
For sure. But you know what, though? But like we were just saying, this shows you how deep the bench could be. Because how many minutes Amari Abram had?
2.
2? He had 2. Troy Henderson?
2.
And then, but with Nate Ahmet coming in and Amari Abram 2 minutes and Troy Henderson 2 minutes, it shows you how deep this team really can be because he was playing guys, and when those guys were in for those 2 minutes, it didn't seem like they made any mistakes. It didn't seem like those guys made any mistakes. Like you didn't see any thing out of the rhythm when it comes to defensively. Offensively, again, Nate took most of the shots for sure, but defensively, it seems like everybody can pick up and play parts where they needed to play. So those 2 minutes that they both played, it didn't look like they was bad at all.
No, and
minutes.
Henderson would be playing more than 2, but he's coming back from that shoulder, and so they're trying to be careful with it a little bit. But, I mean, Auburn played just 8 guys, and I tell you, man, Auburn is just they are relentless. Every time you see them in person, you're just taken aback by – there's not a lot of teams, honestly, and I mean this with respect, that will kind of consistently play as hard as Tennessee plays for 40 minutes in most games. They just play physically hard. Like they're not slacking on defense. They're picking up their guy. They're giving you trouble. Like the way that Pettiford was just all over Gillespie for a lot of the game. And he got help from double teams a couple times, but just Auburn plays hard, and you have to withstand that because they are very, very, very hard to play.
I agree.
And, you know, they play so physical, but then if you get near them when they're shooting the ball, they really know how to draw fouls. They just do. Like you can say, hey, is it a gray area or is it not? Like Baker Mazara lived on that now. And, of course, now I think he's 35 years old, still playing at USC for his final season. But I think he's getting an AARP card now, and he's still playing college basketball. But there was one time in particular where the officials didn't call a foul or a flop, and I think they had to call one or the other because at some point you have to stop allowing it. Yeah. Like it's either if someone does that and they don't get fouled, you need to call a flop on that because this wasn't done because he didn't have room to land, because if he didn't have room to land, you'd call the foul. So if you're not going to call the foul, you have to deter this stuff, right? You just do. It's why they give yellow cards in soccer for diving now, because you just can't, you know, it's – and there can be times where you don't touch a guy but you foul him in that situation because you have to give a shooter room to land. A shooter has to have a little bubble from where they took off from a jump shot vertically to come back down where they were. You can't get up into them for that. And because of that, you know, sometimes guys will kind of hop out of the way because they're about to get tripped, and that's a foul. And you'll say it's a flop. Well, maybe, but it's also a foul because that's the rule. But my point with all that is that Auburn knows how to manipulate that really well. And if the refs will let them, it's smart to do it.
And that's what Coach Gainey was talking about today. He was saying that 17 was kicking his leg out.
Mm-hmm. which you're not allowed to do, then that's an offensive foul. I saw Karl Anthony Towns for the Knicks actually got a hilarious one because he did a kind of sidestep fadeaway three the other day and his against the Mavs, and the leg kick was so far that he kicked the other fella in the kibbles and bits. He got him right in the coin pouch, and that's a foul on the offense, right? It's a flagrant. So you're not technically, so you got to call something there, and they didn't. But I'll tell you, the way that game was officiated, I didn't love it at times. But look at like Kentucky Arkansas earlier in the day, 7 technicals, a Doug Shaw special. God, and then he went to Memphis on Sunday, Memphis and Tulane, and called another couple of technicals. And it's like, dude, maybe you need to go maybe you need a break. Yeah. Why don't you go to the beach for a few days, come back, little rested, and stop calling all these technicals.
Do you know referees watch film at halftime?
That does not surprise me.
They watch film. When I saw that they watch film of like possible missed calls that they missed in the first half of the game.
Maybe that's why they called 13 fouls on Tennessee or whatever in the first 3 minutes of the second half, because they were like, man, those guys got away with some things in the first half. We're gonna get them now. We're gonna eat now. You know, but it's something you just kind of have to deal with at this level. And I will say, in fairness, there are teams, and Tennessee's one of them, who are so good at pushing the line physically that they live in that gray area, and you have to decide whether to call it or not call it, and it can be really hard to do. And then how do you officiate Jalen Carey? Because it's almost like in a very different way how difficult it was for like Shaquille O'Neal to be refereed, because he's just stronger than the other guys.
Everybody.
So what happens when they kind of bump and the other guy goes flying? It's not necessarily how do you judge then, like, because Jalen Carey will go right into your chest, which he's allowed to do to establish position. But sometimes he'll get a little extra with it.
Yeah.
And so it's a foul. But sometimes he gets called for a foul when it's not a foul. And sometimes I think it's very clearly a foul and he gets away with it. So it's frustrating. But I think the part where Tennessee's responsible for that is, yes, they make themselves a difficult team to officiate. So I will say that in fairness. And I feel like I need to go use the mouthwash in the bathroom now because I had to say something nice about the officials, but they do make it difficult now. The technical stuff, that whatever, but the way Tennessee plays and the way Auburn plays on top of that, I would never want to officiate one of those games.
Yeah, but you know what though? That's what the physicality game brings. Like you just talked about with Jalen Carey and Dwayne Brown and those guys down low. I feel like that is their strength about the game. Jalen Carey, to me, I don't see him as he's gonna be at the top of the key taking a 3-point. He's going to be down there banging his body against another guy. They're going to be.
He'll take a 3 if you let him, though.
If you let him. He took one last game, I think.
Yeah.
But that's not for him. So that's their game. It's like they play like a playoff type of basketball to me, like really intense. They want to get the things flowing down low. And then on top of that, you're just going to be in for a really, really long night, whether if it's Dwayne or Jalen or JP or whoever else is down there, Felix. So I think with that being said, officiating that type of matchup is – I think Tennessee will have to learn their officials, because there you got some guys that's going to let it slide, but then you got other guys who's going to be like, nah, that's not happening.
I'll call that all day.
Yeah, so I think –
or they'll call it not – they won't call it in the first half and then start calling it in the second half, which is a crime, but it happens.
I think you got to start learning officials, because I used to blame it on them being a very young team, a freshman-led team, really, and just trying to get used to college basketball. But now that we're so many games into it, I think it's more so of now just learning. Okay, this official is not gonna let this slide too much. This official may let us play a little bit more, but this one may not. So I just think that for both teams, that for Tennessee more so, I just think that they should learn their officials a little bit more.
I think so too, and I think there's a lot of things that we all should learn in life. And one of the things I needed to learn was that, like a minute ago, you needed to get out of here to go back to work. Yeah. So we're going to step away for a second. We're going to take a break. Justin and I are going to bring us home for the final segment here of today's 10 at 3. But right now, thank you for being with us, Elijah.
No problem.
You are excused from Secret Time, my man. Get on out of here. We'll be right back here in just a second on 10 at 3. Secret Time.
Wesley.
Let's see if I can find this Ben Wallace intro.
For us, it's gonna be 7 though. I think we got 6.
So 7, we'll record that. All right. See, there you go. Now you know our official secret business during secret time. I'm seeing if I can find the Ben Wallace thing here on the iPad.
I haven't listened to the video yet, but I found a video.
Yeah.
So I'm a little scared just to go for it. It's not picking it up.
That's how you should be introed.
I like the sound of that.
That is, it's just honestly, if we need to do that, here's what we'll do. We'll record that, and I'll have a clip where I say Justin when he's saying Ben, and we'll overlap it and be like, it was always that.
That's what always been.
That's how it was. That's how it was. That's what I think we should do anyway. And did you get, by the way, while we got doing secret company business, did you see the second Barnes video that I put in there? Is it in the system?
It is not, but I will get it right now.
I want to see if I think it should be in the place where we normally put videos. Where I won't say what file it is because I don't want Putin and those guys to come take it, or the North Koreans or whoever bad actors are getting in our stuff here. But I want to try to make sure because it's a fun one. It's a fun one, and I want to get to it.
Let's see. Last one I see is the Barnes 2-2 still.
There's not a second one in there that says Barnes. Try to refresh it.
Yeah, give me a second. Got 15 seconds left in secret time.
So it'll be a game time decision on whether we found it or not.
Yeah.
If not, I'll drop it in at the end of in the show notes.
Yeah, I'm still just seeing the 2-2. There's an Estrella one underneath it, but that's all I'm seeing. Secret time's back.
Welcome back to 10 at 3, where Wes Rucker now with Justin Wallace because Elijah Nixon had to go back and do some work. You're probably well aware of this, but we all have multiple things that we do here. Elijah couldn't be here for the full hour. He's got some, we have news and things that we have to handle. So he will be back at some point this week. I think Emily said she'll be with us tomorrow maybe. So we'll see if we can get Ms. Cochran in here with us and see if we can gaslight her a little bit, which is always fun. It's just, there are some people that it's just fun. It's just fun to gaslight them because they just, the way they're wired, you just delay your response for a couple seconds or just do something almost exactly the way they wanted you to do it, but not quite exactly the way because they just get a little flustered. It's fun to do that. Emily's got one of those personalities. I'm really fun to work with is what I'm saying because I think of these things, but I'm mostly just kidding. And I never do anything when we're on deadline ever. When we're on deadline, we're working. There's no time for screwing around then. We're working. But other times, yeah, I'll have a little bit of fun. Tennessee had some fun against Auburn in that 77-69 win over the Tigers, and I don't think we're going to be able to find that Barnes shot. I might have to drop it into the show notes today, but Justin may have found it, so update there. We'll work on that. But basically, it was Barnes having a little fun and then realizing he was maybe having too much fun. Because you may have heard all these things that are going on with betting and gambling and college sports, and there's been some issues. And Barnes said that sometimes when he goes in and watches film, that he wonders if his guys are point shaving or betting on games. Because he goes, "Why else would you be making this turnover?" Which sometimes I've made that joke, and Barnes is joking. He clarified he was joking and then tried to remove it, but we didn't let him because it was on the record. But I didn't think it was bad. He said that it wasn't the bad. And afterward, this won't be shown in the video because I think everything had been turned off by then. But he again was like, I probably shouldn't have said that. And I said, no, Rick, hard disagree on that. And I'll tell you why. The number one key to comedy is timing. And this was a strike while the iron's hot time. This was the time to do it because of everything going on. He's like, I don't know, man, I maybe shouldn't have said it. And I love, you see this too when Rick looks over to as we've seen him do so many times in the past decade. He says something and then he looks over at the sports information director like, I probably shouldn't have said that, should I? And then usually it was Tom Sakoviak. Now it's Alex who sit there and go, I mean, you're Rick Barnes. What are we going to do, basically, at this point? So here, did you find it? You did have it locked up? Yeah. We're good. Here is, yes, it's about a minute or so, a little less than that, whatever, somewhere around there. Here is Rick Barnes having a little fun with us there during the press conference, talking about gambling and making jokes.
I don't know what to say other than sometimes I wonder if my guys are betting on games. I shouldn't say that, but that's erase that. I don't want to say that. But I just wonder what's happening. I mean, because I know we're too good of players to do that. Was that a bad? I apologize. I shouldn't have said that, but But the fact is, we got to get smarter. We do. We got to get smarter. We have to, and we have to, and that's and they know it. We got a good group of guys, and I know they don't want to do it, but sometimes we play so hard on defense, and we're playing at a really hard, frantic pace, and we're not able to gear it down like we need to on offense because it's got to be played at a different pace, and we're still a little bit too frantic on the offensive end.
That was Rick Barnes having a little fun with us there after the game, talking about some of the things Tennessee does on offense. And I think he did make a couple of salient points there in the middle of all the joking. He did say that, the demands they put on this team defensively mean that sometimes it's hard to kind of be as frantic and fast-paced and disruptive as you want them to be on defense, and then come down to the other end and play offense the way they want to play, which is a little bit more controlled, a little bit more kind of get into Barnes' motion offense, a couple set things here and there, make the defense work and get a shot. Because they want to be a team that you don't want to play on either end of the floor. And because they want to disrupt everything you do offensively, they want to be in the point guard's face for 94 feet, and they want to be in everybody else's face for, 47 feet. And that's the math? Yes, that's the math. And so they, it depends on when they come off of certain actions, when they kind of switch and when they don't defensively, and where they will go trap and where they won't. But it's very, very disruptive by design. That's how they want it to be. And so by doing that, they want to make you uncomfortable, make you make mistakes, physically wear you down. And then on the other side, they want to push the ball very quickly up the floor, and if you give them a layup or a dunk, they're going to take it. But if not, if you'll see one thing that you don't see very often at Tennessee, and there's a reason they don't really love those kind of halfway transition threes. You see a lot of other teams take these. Barnes, for whatever reason in the style, that's not what – if you get a free layup or free dunk anytime during the 40 minutes, you go take it. No questions asked. You got the lane, go take it. But if you get shut off or you don't have the numbers, they don't want you to kind of have somebody leak over to the wing and hit a three. Maybe if you're Connect, Lanier, Gillespie, you can do it. But other guys, they would rather kind of get set up and then go run their offense. And they're not doing that for no reason. They're doing that because you've made these guys, by these guys I mean the opponent, you've harassed them for every second that they've had the ball, and you've tried to disrupt them. And then on the other end of the floor, you are going to make them work. You're going to keep making them work. You're going to run them through screens. You're going to run them off picks. You're going to set hard screens on them. You're going to have to chase them and be constant motion. So you are having to think the entire time you're on defense. So you're getting pushed physically and mentally when you're playing defense against Tennessee, because they feel like they'll make you work, and at some point they're going to get a clean look. At some point with the actions, with the screens, it may be late in the shot clock, and they're fine with that. They feel like by making you work physically and mentally on both ends, by the end of the game, they'll have you right where they want you. And so it's not like there's times where even I do this during a game, and I say, why did you slow down there? What are you doing? I've even asked Barnes about it a couple times the past couple years. And he has said that, no, if the layup's there, go take it. If the dunk's there, go take it. If the lob for a dunk is there, take it. But he doesn't want to kind of get a pinball game going back and forth in those situations by taking an early three, because that sometimes plays into what they want. Plus, Tennessee's one of their best offenses, frankly, is offensive rebounding. So if they get the guys down there and set, I mean, in the first half of that game against Auburn, Tennessee rebounded 2/3 of the shots that it missed. 2/3. First 15 shots Tennessee missed, 10 of them Tennessee got back. That's preposterous. So if you're taking a quick transition shot there from the perimeter, you're not playing to your strengths. And they're willing to bet over the course of a 40-minute game that even if there's a couple of those shots they might have made, those kind of secondary transition threes, that pulling things back and running offense more often than not will give them more points or more points per possession, which is what you want, because it's not – it's every possession is its own thing, but there's also the collective sense of it. And so that's basically kind of what Tennessee wants to do. But there are times where when you turn the ball over, that's where I start to say, okay, where is the line here? Because if over the course of 30 seconds your point is to wear down the opponent because eventually the dam will break and you'll get an open shot somewhere, I'm on board with that. But when you make some of these mistakes on simple things Tennessee does with the passes or not catching the ball or moving screens or the myriad ways that they've turned the ball over this season, catching the ball with a foot out of bounds, when you bake that into the cake, that's when I start to question, okay, is it still worth it? And the short answer is that depends on kind of how they're going to take care of the ball. If they're going to take care of the ball, it's worth it. If they're not, it's not. And so I don't know what big change you can make there other than you just have to take care of the basketball. Or else you're going to have to change the way you're playing. You're going to have to change a lot of things. And they like their system. It's flexible. They can do a lot of things within it, but they love their system. And so that's where I don't think criticize is the right word, but that's where I start to have questions. Let me see how many turnovers there were against Auburn. Tennessee, 15 turnovers. I mean, it's too many. It's just too many turnovers. And some of them, again, sometimes you get trapped in the corner or, somebody drops a pass or something. There's little things over the course of a game that they drive you nuts, but you'll accept them. You'll accept those things because it's 40 minutes, you're playing fast, you're going to make mistakes, right? But when you make some of the mistakes that they're making at the rate they're making them, and they're coming in clusters, it's really hard. Like Tennessee shoots often. Let's see, what were they? I mean, they shot, I think, 45% or better in both halves. But so if you're doing that, when you're running the offense, you're getting the shots you want. And I can see that because that's what the numbers tell me. They're getting the shots they want. Because if you're making this many of them, those are the ones that you'd want to be taking normally. And so if they will just take care of the basketball, then this team, I still think, is a top 10 basketball team. If it will take care of the ball and make free throws. Now, it made free throws against Auburn. That was big time. Tip of the cap there. Tip of the cap. That's good. In fact, that could have been a little worse than that and still been really good. That's how good it was. And it mattered because that game was kind of on a knife's edge for the entire time. And so that's good. But the turnovers, you can't have it. And I say this again, and I say this because I think he's capable of doing this. They just need a little bit more sharpness out of Gillespie. And while there's still plenty of time to land the plane, the runway is at least on the horizon now. Like it's February, right? It's February. March Madness is March Madness. You do the math on that. Like there's still a decent amount of time to get this sorted, but it's got to get sorted. And now, as kind of a full-time point guard for the first time, by and large, a full-time point guard, he's being asked to do a lot in a system that demands a lot of you. Now, again, he's well compensated for it, so that's, that's what it is. That's, you get the cash, you get the expectations, you get the responsibility. And so there's just late in games, take care of the basketball and stop getting in foul trouble. Stop getting in foul trouble. There are times where, especially in the first half of a game, if somebody beats you with position, let them go. Let somebody else foul them or give them the 2 points and go on to the next possession. Because you're too important to there's a reason why teams are attacking you. That's because they don't want you on the floor. They're attacking you because their scouting report says he will foul you and we don't want him on the floor. So go at him. He'll foul you. He'll get out of the game. You're going to beat Tennessee. So rise above that. Learn it. Take care of the ball late in games, which is a little better that. Little better job there Sunday, Saturday. Good job there. But again, I'll end with this thought, guys. All of these criticisms, I think, are valid, but Tennessee's playing better. And the fact that those criticisms exist, in my mind, is further evidence of this could be a really good basketball team because there's still room to grow. But a little bit less time to do it now. So have some urgency. Big one tomorrow night. Ole Miss, we'll be talking about that, certainly, 7 p.m. Eastern, and then a big one Saturday up there on the frozen blue tundra of Lexington. So we'll be back here in about 23 hours with a lot more basketball talk. We'll see what else happens. Who knows? But until then, we'll see y'all in 23 hours.